Recognizing the signs of autism and ADHD in an employee in a corporate workplace. Hi, I'm Brett, the AuDHD Boss, and I'm an autistic manager with ADHD. And on this channel, what I try to do is create as many resources as I can for ADHD and autism in the corporate workplace. I have over 10 years of leadership experience and leadership training, and I try to bring my perspective and my lived experience to helping others so that they can work better, smarter, and lean into their strengths in the workplace. Usually my advice is specifically for people with ADHD and autism in the workplace. But on this video today, what managers can do to recognize and to continue to better support their employees with autism and ADHD, even if they don't know if their employees have ADHD or autism. I want to preface, I'm not a medical professional. I'm just a manager who's been in a leadership position for a number of years. I have ADHD, I have autism, I have a formal diagnosis, and I have a lot of lived experience in both being an autistic person and being a people manager. We have a lot of strengths, and oftentimes those strengths get lost in behavioral management things that will be misrecognized as behavioral or performance issues when they don't need to be. We don't need to be having things be performance-related issues when, in fact, if we could just create a little bit of different workplace scenarios and recognize people's strengths and just sort of adapt to what the employee needs, a lot of that performance can change and can get better. It's also critical to know you can't ask if someone has ADHD or autism. These are recognized as disabilities by the Americans with Disability Act, and so we have to honor and respect that privacy. Now, if someone offers up their diagnosis to us, we can create reasonable accommodations, and we can also think more about ways to make the workplace better. And when we make the workplace better for one person, we eventually make the workplace better for everybody. Ultimately, my goal as a manager is always to remove barriers for my team, for the people that work on my team. My responsibility is to trust that the people on my team are the experts at the roles that I've put them in, and that I trust them. Is to not make you a psychologist or an expert or to put you in the position of diagnosing people. But what I do want you to be able to do is recognize the sign, both strengths and areas where an employee may need more support. The ultimate goal here is to avoid putting someone on a performance plan or losing a really talented employee. ADHD and autistic brains are just wired differently. Being neurodivergent versus neurotypical. These are terms you should probably get to understand. There are amazing resources out there from Embrace Autism, How to ADHD, and Dr. Ned Hollowell. These are all amazing resources. They're usually my go-to. There's many, many more resources out there as well. But ultimately, just understanding the difference between how brains are wired. These are neurological differences between being neurodivergent and neurotypical. Now, while ADHD and autism can be categorized as a disability, it's also easier to just consider them having a different way of thinking. We see the world differently. We experience the world differently. We take in a lot of information as we process the world around us. We also process things at different speeds and different rates. Sometimes we need more time to process something. Sometimes we can process something at warp speed. We bring all of those things as strengths to our roles, including things like attention to detail, focus, hyperfocus, monotropism, with unique understanding to see details in some situations. We're not diagnosing, but we can recognize signs. So let's start with some of the more common signs of ADHD. Inattentiveness. Certainly, employees with ADHD may miss details, especially on repetitive tasks. Things like hyper-focus or easily distracted. I might get sort of really deeply involved in a task and struggle to stay focused. So if I'm sitting in a meeting and I get a really important email and I happen to see that email, my focus is suddenly going to go to that email or that crisis or that thing. All of my attention is going to be on that, and I may tune out of the meeting. If the meeting in particular is quite boring and there's not a lot going on, or I don't have anything to do in that meeting, I'm going to be very easily distracted in that meeting. Time management. This is a big one. If you have somebody who's late, I'm rarely on time myself. I may struggle with deadlines for certain projects. I may get them in at the last minute. It's not from a lack of effort, but because it just impacts our perception of time. So now what can throw me off is having a hard time of managing my own expectations and possibly being wrong about how much time that thing might take. So oftentimes I'm late to work a lot. If I have to go into the office and I don't work from home, I might think, oh, it'll take me 10 minutes to get from my house to my office, but I may not factor in that they're doing construction in my town, or a road might be closed. A couple of signs for autism, certainly for me, is I don't love small talk. So if you're working with somebody who is in particularly not a big fan of small talk or keeps that small talk very short, that's something that you might see as a sign of autism. Sensory sensitivity. I don't like bright lights or loud noises. Things like that can be really overwhelming for me in particular. Certainly, if the dynamic or the energy in the room is off, that can throw me off. I like routines, and I like to know what I'm walking into in terms of like a meeting agenda. If I don't know what this meeting is about, or I don't know what the purpose of that meeting is, I might start to get a little nervous or a little concerned about what we're doing. Routines, understanding, routine and predictability is really helpful for those of us with autism. Sometimes if that structure is off, it may make me feel a little stressed or not able to manage expectations around different things. Now, being somebody with ADHD and autism, AuDHD, I like random moments of unpredictability set in predictable moments. So go figure. Now, you can look at Embrace Autism for a full list of understanding more about symptoms of ADHD and autism. You can also check out How to ADHD for more about symptoms of people with ADHD. There's also a tremendous amount of anxiety wrapped up inside ADHD and autism. And there may be anxiety that's showing up that we don't want to disclose or we may not want to talk about in the workplace. And we might be compensating in different ways to try to figure out how to manage our ADHD, our autism, our anxiety, and our needs, and we try to figure out different ways to manage that on our own, which can make things really stressful for us or overwhelming or really cause us to struggle or get stressed about different things. And we may not necessarily be showing that, or we may not necessarily be communicating that, but it might come through in different signs of our performance. Jessica McCabe of How to ADHD describes ADHD brains as needing the flexibility to explore ideas, and that will allow us to lead to breakthrough thinking. Those are her words. Whereas autistic employees, according to Embrace Autism, can often excel in detail-oriented work and giving us time and space to do deep dives, deep focus. With regular routines and managed expectations, those of us with autism can bring exceptional dedication and our unique perspective to problem solving. ADHD and autistic employees like me can really create tremendous problem solving skills. There's our ability to do incredible problem solving and to do deep dives into problems and really unpack and untangle complicated things. How can we do more to support? Well, communication is a key thing. Having regular check-ins at set times with regular time frames and possible agendas often helps a lot. If you're working on sort of like a regular weekly, bi-weekly, or even a monthly check-in, where we know what the expectations of that check-in is. What should I be bringing as an employee to that check-in? I know that check-in is going to happen every week, every bi-weekly, every month, whatever it is, having a set check-in with my boss. Do you want to know everything I'm working on, or do you want to just know about a few things that I'm working on? How much detail do you want me to get into? And can you communicate that to me beforehand? Are there specific things you want to know about in that check-in? If not, let me know. Do you want to know what those specific things are, or do you just sort of want a general to-do list of what I'm working on inside my check-in? Be direct. Be direct with your explicit directions. Avoid ambiguity. Try very specific language. Give me hard and fast deadlines. Don't give me vague deadlines. Tell me when you need that thing by and when you want it by. Key thing with ADHD and autism employees, you need to be able to manage expectations, reduce anxiety, and be very clear. The more we can both hold space for them to explain their thinking, show their thinking, talk through their thinking, and as managers also reduce misunderstandings or reduce misinterpreting or misassuming something that they're doing. Oftentimes, for those of us with autism and ADHD, we are often misunderstood regularly. And that's one of our great frustrations. That's one of our great anxieties. Certainly is for me. And sometimes when that happens, we have a tendency to over-explain ourselves, or we give too much context, or we give too many details. By helping guide us with questions of curiosity, as opposed to assumptions, that's going to help create a better communicating space for us. We also want to avoid micromanaging. One of the key things here about that is making sure that we know we have the autonomy to do what we need to do. And again, with clear direction and clear instructions and clear routines and clear deadlines. That helps us to have that autonomy, knowing that we're being trusted, but also knowing what you need to know, what details, what information, what updates you specifically need to know. Having sensory breaks, or even the flexibility to just get up, walk around, take movement breaks. Certainly for those of us with ADHD, myself included, I need to get up and walk around and move. If I'm sitting still, one of the things I hate the most is a long meeting. If I have to sit in a long all-day meeting, or a 4-hour meeting, or a 5 or 6 hour meeting, I need to get up, I need to walk around, I need to sort of get sunshine, I need to get fresh air. I need dopamine. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for more dopamine. Now, the autistic part of me needs sensory breaks as well. Less breaks looking at screens, less noise issues, maybe going to a quieter space, maybe taking a minute to go process some thinking for me. That's the other thing too. For a lot of us with ADHD and autism, you may present us with new information about something. You may come to us and say, hey, here's this thing that's going on. We might get overwhelmed when we hear that as new information, and we might sort of panic and sort of verbally say a lot, or we may go quiet and we may need time to go off, process, and think about that thing. Giving us processing time so that we can think things through clearly and space to ask questions helps quite a bit. Now, for task management, helping those of us with ADHD with prioritization makes a huge difference. If you give me a laundry list of things and you tell me everything is equal importance, my brain's going to break. I'm not going to know what to do with that. Help me identify what my priorities are. What do I need to be putting my energy into? And maybe it might even help is how much time do we think we need for each of those priorities? I want to take a minute to sort of break a lot of misconceptions and myths. And one of the biggest myths is laziness. Anytime I hear someone described as lazy, that's a red flag to me. I'm not of the perspective that laziness exists. There's a famous phrase, if I were being lazy, I'd be enjoying it. But really, a lot of us have things like task initiation problems or task paralysis, which causes us to sort of freeze before we can start something, or we have too many to-do lists or competing things that are all of the same type, and we don't know where to start. We have too many competing priorities, and that can kind of put a freeze response on us where we don't know how to start or where to begin. That's task paralysis, and that's where a manager can really help me. Help me break down those steps. Help me break down those priorities. Help me understand where I should be putting that energy. Help me move through the task paralysis. Whereas it could be perceived as lazy if I'm not doing something, when really I'm just struggling to get started. But once I get started, I'm well on my way. Being considered antisocial. For the autistic part of me, I don't love small talk. And so I don't necessarily love going to work events or work parties or social events or things where I have to sort of figure out how to exist outside of my normal comfort zone. That can be really hard for me. So I might be perceived as a little antisocial in some of those situations when really I'm just struggling to figure out how to exist in that space or how to communicate. Let's instead approach these employees with empathy and understanding and start with the question of, maybe there's a struggle here. How can I figure out what they're struggling with, and how can I help remove a barrier to help them get there? When we focus more about how do we remove barriers and less of why don't they just do this the way I want them to do it, when I check my wanting things to be done my way at the door, and I give them the space and autonomy to figure out how to do it in their own creative way, that works because I'm creating a better workplace for them. I'm creating a better place for them to excel, to be the person that they need to be at work, and to get things done the way their brain needs things to get done. We have to recognize and remember we're working with adults, and these adults, they know what they're doing, and we've trusted them to be in the jobs and the positions that they're in, and we have to trust them. We have to trust them as adults, as colleagues, to do the job that they're hired to do. And we need to look at their strengths and what they can do. And if they do have weaknesses, let's talk to them and bring them into the conversation about what they need, as opposed to making assumptions about what we think is going on or about what we think they need. Taking a non-judgment, empathetic approach to our colleagues always makes a huge difference. And creating a safe space for feedback where someone feels trusted that they can share these things with you is the most critical thing that you can do as a manager. And here's just one more tip that I had to learn. If you feel defensiveness coming up for yourself in these conversations with your employees where you're getting irritated or you're getting annoyed with somebody for not doing something the way you want it done, check that defensiveness at the door and pause and reflect with empathy. If you can kind of let that defensiveness back down and then investigate with questions and with true empathy and with true curiosity and figure out how can I help this person and genuinely create the space to help them will make a huge difference in the long run. as opposed to forcing or pushing somebody to do something the way that you specifically needed to be done, you may find that that person is going to repel and push harder back because that may not work for their brain. Let's work together to figure out how can we do this for a way that works for you, for how you can best meet that. And again, you don't need to know that they have a diagnosis or not to be able to have that kind of a and more collaborative relationship. I'm Brett the AuDHD Boss. If you found any of this helpful, please like and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions specifically about ADHD and autism in the workplace, either if you're an employee who's struggling with work, or you need help, or you have a topic or something that you'd like me to cover, or if you're a manager who has ADHD or autism yourself, or you have people on your team who have ADHD and autism, let me know in the comments a question or a topic that you might like for me to cover and talk about more on this channel. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. And check out some of the other videos that I have on my channel while you're here. Thanks for watching.